Today I will be discussing our elementary drawing module 8 concepts and assignments for the week. This week we're going to be working with texture. We're going to be working with drapery studies. We're going to be learning about atmospheric perspective. And then, we're going to be doing some related assignments. So let me first start with texture. So we know texture is one of our elements of art, and there is actual texture where you can touch objects and you can feel a texture. And then in our drawings, we don't have actual texture, but we're trying to represent texture. And so as with all of our drawings, what we're really drawing is the light and dark that make up what we see when we see something. And so in our drawings and our assignments this week, we're going to try and represent a couple different textures through the way the light reflects off of these textures. So I have included a video in the lecture about texture. When we're doing our assignment, we're going to want to include 3 textures. The other thing in the lecture is we talk about drapery studies. So fabric is a great way of working with texture. Fabric creates a very interesting texture as it lays over things. And so we've got some words you can read about texture in Leonardo da Vinci's Fabric Study, which is an amazing piece. And then I've included a video on how to draw fabric folds and drawings based on Leonardo da Vinci. So we're gonna have a piece of drapery or fabric in our still life that we're gonna want to include and work on that. The third thing that we want to work on and think about is atmospheric perspective. So we've talked a little bit about perspective in this class before, and more specifically like linear perspective. So how you draw lines to represent how parallel lines, recede in the distance. Another tactic that can be used to represent perspective is what's called atmospheric perspective. So when we look through the air, we're looking through air molecules. We're looking through, there's oftentimes, things, pollutants. We have water that's in the air. So if we look a great distance, things further from us are going to be less. There's going to be less value range in things that are further from us than closer to us because of this us having to look through the atmosphere. So when we're making a drawing, the things in the front, we can have darker darks and lighter lights and have a wider value range, and that shows us that those things are right out in front, and they're the most dynamic things because we're not looking through too much atmosphere. And then as things move back in the atmosphere, the value range becomes shorter, so the darks aren't quite as dark and the lights aren't quite as light. And then when you move even further, you amplify that. And so that brings the stuff to the front and the stuff to the back visually. I've also included a video on atmospheric perspective that you can use. And we'll want to use all 3 of these things in our drawings for this week. So your assignments, you're going to be doing your warm-up exercises, and your warm-up exercises, you're going to, and for your extended drawing, you're going to create a still life that contains at least 3 textures. So have at least 1 piece of fabric, and I would get, it could be any type of fabric. probably a light colored fabric, or gray might be the best because that's going to have, a larger value range from the light to the dark. And then you're going to, put that in your still life. Have at least one shiny object, maybe something geometric like a tea kettle or ladle or musical instrument. And then at least one fuzzy or rough object. So it could be a stuffed animal, it could be a pine cone, could be, a piece of wood with bark or something like that. And then at least one glass object. So a vase, a drinking glass, a light bulb, something that's made of glass. Glass really is interesting to draw because of the way light goes through it and reflects off it. Try draping the fabric over a few books or some other objects to give some height to your drawing, make an interesting composition. We're going to have you take your newsprint, as we've done in the past, divide it into quarters and do 4 thumbnail drawings of different compositions that you could draw for this still life. Again, we're practicing composition. We're practicing putting together an interesting drawing. Again, spend, maybe 45 minutes or an hour working out exactly how you want your final extended drawing to look. And then we're going to take our quality paper, our good paper. Again, we're working in the 18 by 24, and we're going to create an extended drawing of your still life in graphic. We would like you guys to include at least 3 different textures. Texture can take a lot of time, and again, you're using the same skills you use when working through your drawing. So again, when you start this still life, we want to get things accurately drawn on the page. So we're going to use your sighting techniques, your measuring techniques, your intuitive gesture to get everything laid out. And again, lightly draw everything out, get everything in the right spot. And then you're going to really look again at the value ranges, and you can work some on the value. When you start looking at the texture, look at the difference in the way the value looks to you between, say, the fuzzy object and the shiny object. So the shiny thing might have a very hot spot where the light bounces off it, and then smoothly moving into some of the darker values, where that fuzzy texture might have light and dark sort of mixed together, and you might have to use different types of marks to represent that sort of texture. So I think that's one thing we want to work on here. We also want to use, again, the idea of atmospheric perspective. So as you move back in your drawing, and I know there's not a lot of room in these still lives, but the things in the back of the drawing maybe have slightly less of a value range than the stuff up front. And then that stuff that's got the darker value range, very, very dark darks and very, very white whites, is going to be pushed forward. And the stuff with a little bit of a compressed value range, not quite as dark as darks, not quite as light as lights, will move back in your drawing. So we will be posting your completed project to the assignment page, and then next week you will be posting your images of these projects to the discussion. So for your homework, you're going to draw a living thing. And so this can be kind of a challenging little assignment. So we're going to work in our sketchbook, and we'd like you guys to sketch a living thing, possibly a pet, maybe a friend or family member. You may have to go outside of the house to find something. I think that you're going to want to use various methods of capturing motion in your subject, such as gesture drawing, overlapping, repetition, shading. Living things move, and we can try and communicate this movement through these drawings. So we're going to want to use a range of pencils from the H the more hard kind of light pencils to the B, the soft and dark pencils that will give you a variety of values. We want to try and use both the line and continuous tone shading. And again, this is in your sketchbook, so have fun with it. Maybe make a couple drawings. Living things tend to move, so if you have a pet and it's moving around, you may have to kind of shoot an image of the pet to get kind of to get the pose down, but then be looking at the actual pet to really figure out how the values work, how the texture works. And then you're gonna submit your homework assignment in the assignment portion of Canvas. Again, if you have any questions as you're working through the projects for this week, please email me and I will help you work through those. I look forward to seeing you in your drawings. Good luck.